Sa Friday ko na lang ayusin. Set up yung blackboard. Okay, so this is Math 176. Differential calculus. So the course is divided into three outcomes. First, we focus on differentiation of algebraic and transcendental functions. Number two, application or practical application or derivatives or differentiation. And then number three, partial differentiation. So course outcome one, so we will allot 5 weeks for course outcome one. The topics are limits of a function, derivative of algebraic productivity of a function, derivative of algebraic and transcendental functions, from trigonometric to hyperbolic functions, including the inverse functions, and then parametric equations, higher order differentiation. You will have your longest one on the 5th week. So course outcome 2 will cover 6 weeks of the term. The topics are indeterminate form, tangent, normal lines, roles, and mean value theorems, graphing of algebraic function using derivatives, and then application, maxima, minima, related rates, and then you will have differentials, and you will have your long list number 2 on the 10th week. And then only 3 weeks for the last outcome, course outcome 3, that will cover surfaces, 3-dimensional space or geometry, and then partial derivatives, and then other concepts applicable for partial derivatives, and then some application problems with maximum minimum. And then 40th week will be allotted for the final exam. So there will be no lectures during the 40th week. Usually, ang schedule ng math is on the first day of the 14th week or Monday. And then ito yung ating Coursera, the title of your Coursera. Now, if you have completed the title from Coursera, you can just upload later. Open ko na yung submission date, you can upload the link to the certificate of completion. And this is how you will be graded. 10% for the short pieces online activities sa Blackboard. And then 10% naman for problem sets that will be taken from the web assign, and then MATLAB activities. There will be no e-portfolio. This is a regular term for MATLAB 176 on the business requirements of e-portfolio. And then 30% for the quizzes. Coursera is 10%. The final example. So before we begin to the limit of a function, let's have first an introduction into the course, followed by the definition of the function. the basic definition and properties of the function. Okay, so differential calculus is a branch of mathematics that focuses on the rates of change and slopes of curves. So rates of change are usually when you have quantities that is dependent on tawag yan, another variable, let's say y as a function of x, and then y changes when x changes. So usually the independent variable represents time under related rates. But there are quantities na dependent or can change with respect to another variable that is not time. And it's one of the two main parts of calculus. So the other one is the integral calculus. So at its core, differential calculus deals with the concept of derivative. So which represents the instantaneous rate of change of a function. Now, so the central idea is that the derivative of a function at a specific point gives the slope of the tangent line to the function's graph at that point. So the point is actually the point of tangency. So you start, you're given a curve. Say this one is your curve y equals f of x. So x is your independent variable, y is your dependent variable. So let's consider a secant line, and then you try to move the point, this point along the curve towards the second point. Okay? Now you will observe na at the point or this point, as it moves along the curve closer to the secant line, the secant line will transform into a tangent line. So once nag-overlap na siya tulad nito, the line becomes a tangent line, which is a line that intersects the curve at exactly one point, and that point is called the point of tangency. So every time you differentiate y with respect to y, you are actually getting the slope, okay, of the tangent line, and that slope is your dy over dx. Okay, so that's how you interpret derivatives geometrically. So the slope tells us how quickly the function's output is changing with respect to its input. Your input is your x, and then your output is your y. At that exact moment. So for example, if a function describes the position of a car over time, so ito yung distance s traveled by the car, okay, which is a function of time, then the derivative will represent the car's instantaneous velocity. So when you differentiate the distance with respect to time, you're actually getting the velocity, the velocity of the car. So before we can understand derivatives, so we need first to understand the concept, okay, deeply, the concept of a limit. Okay? So a limit is the value that a function or sequence approaches, as the input or index approaches a certain value. So the foundational building block for defining the derivative precisely. So differential calculus has wide range of application in various fields. For example, in physics, as I mentioned a while ago, okay, you can calculate the velocity by differentiating the distance with respect to time. And then if you differentiate the velocity with respect to time, you are actually getting the acceleration of the object. And engineering for designing structures, okay, and then maximizing or optimizing performance. Economics, determining the marginal cost, marginal revenue, and then maximize the profit, maximizing the revenue, or maybe minimizing, okay? Minimizing the cost, no, or expenses. In machine learning, it can be used in optimization algorithms. So in essence, differential calculus provides a powerful framework or powerful tool for solving problems that will involve things changing and moving, no, from the path of a planet to the growth rate of a population. Okay, so let's the definition of a function. So a function is actually a relation between variables x and y. Sorry, x is your independent variable, y is your dependent variable. And that is a rule, okay, of correspondence. Assigning one element, okay, from a set to another element of another set. So, ina-assign mo lang, no? Yung elements from A to the elements of B. Okay, so yung elements ni set A are denoted by X. These are your, tama, yung domain, no? Domain, and then your range will be all values of Y. So, a function f from set A, so ito relation, ito function. From a set A to set B is a rule of correspondence that assigns to each element X. So, every element of A is assigned to a distinct element, exactly one, A element, Y in the set B. Kung kanina, nag-pair ka lang, or kahit anong pairing mo. And that's actually, ano din siya, no? Another word for relation is, that rule is mapping, no? That process is mapping. But when you assign each element of set A to a distinct element of set B, that's now the relation becomes a function. Okay? So a relation can be a function. A function is always a relation, but a relation sometimes cannot be sometimes a function. Okay, so function is always a relation, but relation is not always a function. Okay? Kasi mapping yung function siya, nagmamap, nag-a-assign ka din. But pagdating sa function kasi meron ka ng ano tawag yan, distinct property na you have to follow. Unlike sa relation, wala, nag-map ka lang. Whichever mapping you want, okay, between two sets. Okay? So in relation or mapping, you can have one-to-one. So, if you have 6 elements here, naka-assign din siya doon sa 6 elements. Tag-iisa sila, no? Okay? Yan, you have 1, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4. Yan, that's one-to-one correspond. One-to-one mapping or one-to-one correspond. And the one-to-one is actually a function. Ang rule kasi pag sinabi mo function, there should be meron kang ordered pairs, and then no two ordered pairs should have the same first element or the same x, kasi you have x, y as an ordered pair. So sa function, bawal yung magkaparehas yung x mo. So dito, kung if you do 1:1, so it is impossible that you will have an ordered pair or two ordered pairs that will have the same x. Okay? So 1:1 is actually a function. Kasi each element is assigned to a distinct element in the other set. Now this one is many to one, no? And this is not a function, so relation lang yan. Many to one, bawal yung parehas sa ano. So this is another example of a function, many to one. So this is a function. So you have 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 4. So in those 5 ordered pairs, wala silang parehas na x. Okay? So that's many to one. Now, what is an example of many to one? So may mga functions that can be represented by an equation. Minsan, it's confusing kapag dalawa lang yung i-memorize mo, no? O tatanggap. Remember, na malaki yung chance na you can interchange the idea, di ba? So, ang technique ko dito is to always remember yung graph ng y equals x squared, which is a parabola that opens upward, and then the vertex is at the origin. So ang graph, ang equation natin here is y equals x squared. Ito yung graph ng y equals x squared ng parabola. Now, if you apply the vertical line test, so that is a powerful tool, no, to determine if the graph is a function or not a function. So, do sa vertical line test, you just need to draw a line, a vertical line, anywhere along the graph of the curve. And then dapat the vertical line should intersect the curve at exactly one point. So, as you can see, kahit saan siya i-move, the vertical line will intersect the curve at exactly one point. And that makes the equation or the function or the equation function. Yung function niya. So, you try, kunin natin yung examples na. Let's say you have x and y. So, kung negative 1 yan, substituting, we get 1 for y. 1, we get 1. Negative 2, you get 4. Positive 2, you get 4. So, yung negative 1 saka 1 is mapped to a single element 1, okay, from the range. So you have many to 1, and this is a function. Okay? So you have negative 2 are assigned to only one element 4, like many to 1. It does not violate yung rule na there should be no two ordered pairs that would have the same x, okay, or first numbers. Yeah, so therefore, so ang opposite niya will be yung x squared equals y. Yun ang hindi function. So, let's see. Ito yung 1 to many. Okay? So, this is 1 to many. And 1 to many definitely is not a function. Kasi you have 2, 4, tapos 2, 10. So meron kang, ayan, para sila ng first element, which is 2. So hindi siya function. Okay? So, one example niya is the graph of the parabola whose axis is along the x-axis. So, ito yung tsura niya, no? This is your x squared. X equals y squared. Okay. So, example, ano yung mga possible x mo dyan? Let's say, y muna. Sige, balik din natin. Negative 1, 1. We get 1 here. Okay. And then 4, negative 2. Positive. Okay. So, ito, 1 to many. Okay, 4 is up to negative 2 and positive. So, pag nag-vertical line test ka dito, as you can see, ayun, no? Dalawa yung, okay? Dalawa yung points. So, this is not a function. Now, if you want this parabola to be a function, kailangan ko consider mo lang isang, parang circle din. The circle whose center is at the origin, if you apply the vertical line test, okay, it can tell you that the circle is not a function. Hindi siya function. Yan. So, let's say ang R mo dito is 1 unit. 1. So, the radius is 1. So, ang equation mo is x squared plus y squared equals 1. No? So, pag vertical line test yan, hindi na siya function. Okay? Dalawa yung point of intersection mo. Ito, okay. So, if you want a function that, a graph that is a function, then you should, okay, consider only the one above the x-axis. So, yun. Yan. And, ano yung equation ng semicircle na yan? So, isosolve nyo to, y is equal to the square root of, take note, dapat plus or minus yan if you will consider the whole. Okay, pero kung above lang yan, then that's positive. 1 minus x squared. So, ito na yung graph niya. So, nanggaling din siya sa circle. So, ang equation nito, yung semicircle, whose radius is 1 unit, okay, and then above the x-axis is actually this equation. Y is equal to square root of 1 minus x squared. And this is a function. This is not. So yung kanina, semi-parabola, itaas lang, no? Ito, vertex niya, ayan. So ano yung equation nito? Nagaling siya sa ano, no? X equals y squared. So y is equal to square root of x. Pero plus lang siya, no? Kasi hindi mo sasama yung negative. Wala kang negative. Yan. So ito yon. And this is a function. Definitely. So pwede rin yung nasa ilalim, function din yun, basta kalahati. But this time, y equals negative square root of x. Yan. So much for the function. And then you might encounter what we call piecewise. So ano itong piecewise? So meron kang dalawang curves. Parang dinugtong mo lang siya, no? Tulad dito. That you have parabola and a line connected through x equals 0. And yun yung boundary point. So how do you plot? Gawa muna tayo ng x equals 0. So, ang boundary natin, x equals 0. Dito. Now, so this equation at x is less than 0 is y 2x squared plus 3. So, linearing y, the parabola, so this is a parabola. And then, ano yung y mo when x equals 0? Dali. Yan. So, ibig sabihin, ang vertex mo nasa x equals 3. So, tapos upward yan, no? Upward. This is open kasi x less than 0, so this should be open. Hindi kasama ang yeah. So that is y equals 3. So, ito will give you y equals to, ano yan, line 5x minus 1. Ang common nila is x equals 0. So, ano yung value ni y when x equals 0? Negative 1.
Zero pre. Ba't zero? Ba't zero yung x? Alam mo ba? Yes.
Yung y answer.
Kasi, deliver ko ng 8.
20.
Kaya, kasi lang ko na, tapos may equal sa 0.
Dapat idadayain yung x sa zero. Hindi yung naisip ko 2x squared na din zero. Kasi yung 3.
Maybe
Dadayain na
we
din sa...
need another point
Sa 5x plus.
to the right dapat.
Negative 1. Lalagyan sa 1.
Audits na natin yun. Constants.
X equals 1. what is the value of y? 1/4. So, 1 nasa yung mag-ibig. So, 4 sa mga. Then, connect the 2 points. Yan yung graph na, ay, hindi pala kasama ko. So, nandito ka lang. Okay. Yan, so ito yung graph, piecewise. Actually, this is piecewise, continuous. Continuous siya from negative infinity to positive 3. Meaning, walang break, walang hole. Yun yung sabihin ng continuous. And then from 0 to infinity, you have this particular line. The slope is positive. Ako naman siya.
11:40.
11:40. Okay, tama na yun. Mag-check now natin yan. So, next meeting, then we discuss more. Share ko naman yung mga PowerPoint na ginagamit.
Easy.
Alcantara, Anahaw, Aquino, Bautista, Dingas, wala, Kasison, Cobambang, Corpus, wala, David, Vecindario, wala, Domingo, Fernandez, Fontanilla,
Present, sir.
Llanosa, Garcia, Villera, Lopez, Larizel, Lopez, Riche, how do you pronounce your first name?
Trishan po.
Trishan. Alam ko Trishan. Sabi ko biglang naging siya. Trishan. Kendrick. Lumano. Mira. Miranda. Monedero.
Matagay sila lang.
Eliada.
Sir Mare.
Wala.
Hindi pala.
Olanyo.
Present.
Olaiva. Wala. Ortiz.
Present po.
Reyes. Tolentino. Tuason.
Present po.
Merong hindi na tawag. Di ba enroll? O mag-enroll na kayo kasi pag hindi nyo nag-enroll ngayon, kay Francis daw babalik.
Inisip mo.
Hindi ka kayo sa Francis last term. Oo, ang swerte nyo, no? Ang dami. Ay, mabait na nga yun. Lumalagpas na ng libay. Ay, ba? Oo, dati mo. Dalawa lang yun. Anyway. Okay, lapit mo dito yung ano, pagtingin ng ano yung ID. Kung consider ko yung attendance yung today. Pero mag-enroll na kayo, ha? Meron kang habol sa attendance? Wala na? Okay, so wala na question. Sige. Last is me. Friday pala, asynchronous siya na.